Hello everyone, welcome to Mr. Smoothie's channel. This is Mr. Smoothie.
I'm Mrs. Smoothie, and I'm also here.
And we're going to be giving our review of Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. So the last video that we did, the review slash reaction to episode 1 of Rebel Moon, part 1 of Rebel Moon, it was in a different format than how we're doing now. We've already watched Rebel Moon Part 2. And unfortunately, and instead of doing like a live reaction, how we did for the first one, we decided it would probably be better to just go through the movie after we've watched it and give our thoughts on different parts, and that way we can expound on our thoughts a little bit more profoundly, instead of just, reacting while the video is still playing. What are your thoughts on that, Mrs.
Yeah, I
Smith?
like that idea better.
Yeah? And I think as editor, that's also going to help you out with the editing as well.
Yeah.
We struggled a little bit with copyright on the first one as well, and so this is going to make it easier for us in that aspect. Well, first let's start with a brief review and our score out of 10 that we would give to part 1. First thing, part 1, it's not a great movie. I would even say, maybe this is a little bit of spoiler for the end of this video, that I like part 2 slightly better than part 1. But they're still, like, super bad movies. I would say that part 1 gets, like, a 1.5, maybe a 2 out of 10.
Part 1.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is I think that the second one was, to me, way less enjoyable than the first one.
Okay.
And maybe it was because I already came in with the perspective of, like, this is gonna suck, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, I'm like, oh, it's like it could be a good action movie that we actually get to enjoy, and end up disappointed. For this one, I already had the expectation that it was going to be bad, and I was not disappointed with that.
Yeah, that's true.
I can go in deep a little bit too, but like I probably would give episode 1 like a 2, and this one, no, what am I saying? Yes, and this one maybe like a 1.
Okay.
And I feel like there are a couple of rescuable things from either of those movies, but it's definitely something that we're not gonna watch ever again, probably.
Yeah.
And I'm happy not to ever talk about it again, except for like turning it into a meme or something. But I don't think that there's anything good about it.
Yeah.
That it's gonna be worth mentioning later.
So I'm gonna give a brief couple sentence review of episode 1, part 1. Basically, I think that it was way too long, way too much focus on building this team without actually building any relationships between the team members. I feel like if they would have, instead of make 2 parts for these movies, had one movie that was the same length as this one, they might have had a passable movie. There's so much content that they should have just cut and streamlined and focused in on the important story that they're trying to tell, which is supposed to be about, saving this little village. Also,
I feel like they also, like, something that you mentioned as we were watching the other movie was just like, this could have had potential if they would have just turned it into like a mini series instead of just 2 massive boring movies.
Yeah, like you've got to go like one of 2 directions. Either cut out a bunch of the crap that you don't need and make it one movie that's streamlined, or make it into a mini series where you can actually like take the time and care that you need for all of the different characters and stitching together their relationship. I also think that this type of story lends itself better to a fantasy setting or a medieval setting than a sci-fi epic setting. And we'll explain a little bit of that later on. We'll get into it as we watch this movie, or as we go through this movie. We get another overview by James the robot, who we saw for like 3 scenes in the previous movie.
I was under the impression on the last movie when the guy says they left us a Jimmy, I just thought that was kind of like a anagram, so Jimmi, and it's like something robot magical thing. It turns out that his name is literally James.
Yeah, his name's just James.
And so the fact that he's like, they left us a Jimmy is like kind of weird to say. It's like, oh, like if your name's David, it's like, oh look, they left us a Dave.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's a little weird for me. At least that was the impression that I got out of that.
Well, and I guess my thought on that is like, okay, so are all of these robots named James? How do you identify them?
Well,
apart from each
that's
other?
why it's weird because later in the movie when Cora goes and talks with James, he's like, "Oh, hello, James." He's not like, "Hello, 23401 day James dash Jamie."
Yeah, like in Star Wars we have C-3PO, R2-D2. Like their names are their identification code, which makes it really
And like
simple and easy.
I would have been fine if it's like, oh, his name's James. But the fact that in the earlier movie it was like they left us a Jimmy is just a little weird. I mean, inconsistent, but
like I feel like it was poorly executed, as the majority of this series is. So we get him describing the humble farmers, the group of heroes who heroically banded together to save the village. And basically they give us a recap of the first movie in case we didn't watch, because, probably you didn't, and hopefully you didn't. And then we get the title, Rebel Moon. We get the
so they
the Admiral.
resurrect Admiral Noble. And I feel like they got feedback on the last movie of how, like, wah he was. Like, a lame character that's not terrible or scary at all. And so they tried to make him a little bit more intimidating. And it was, again, poorly executed because it's like, oh, he's going to be the admiral that, like, flippin' doesn't want to be connected to tubes. He just wants to go and fight. And he's so angry that he's going to kill his people in front of them,
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, that just makes him a jerk. It doesn't make him intimidating.
That makes him, like, a bad leader and not intimidating.
And it's like, not saying that being violent towards the people around you, especially the ones that are like your, how do you call them?
Subordinates?
Your subordinates, it's like not gonna work because Darth Vader does literally choke some of his subordinates in the film. And it's actually cool to watch, But the fact, like, Darth Vader is such a well-made character. You know so much about his personality and what you watch through Star Wars. Except the parts when, you don't... Later episodes where it's just like, wah, wah, wah. But the parts when you see him choking the subordinate and the performance of the guy that it's done is just like, oh, wow. Because there's no magic. He's just pretending to be choked,
Yeah.
And so in here, it's like, oh, I'm going to be all violent. I'm going to be screaming on the comms. And then the moment that he gets to show his horse, it's like, oh, okay, I guess you're evil. Ooh.
I would say it's like the difference between seeing Darth Vader be violent with his men. It's to make a point. He's not being violent for violence sake. Compared to Kylo Ren being violent with his men, it's because he's throwing a tantrum. And this feels a lot more like Admiral Noble is throwing a tantrum about not getting his way and having been injured, and he's so upset by all this, and so he's not in control of the situation, where Darth Vader is totally in control of his situation. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's not getting carried away.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Also, I don't know if this scene's supposed to be looking good. It looks flippin' terrible.
Yeah, all of this gross, like,
It reminds me, kind of reminds me of when Frodo got, like, covered in the spider web. And it's just like...
They actually use, like, real
Yeah.
practical effects on him, and this is just like crappy CG until we get super close to his face. Also, they're gonna try and use some like Messiah, Savior, Jesus vibes with this. We'll get to it, but like you're already seeing it with this like cross position, and it's just like kind of sad.
And it's also kind of funny because that point doesn't ever get touched again.
Yeah,
it's just established that I'm gonna be a savior. And then moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Yeah, like they're trying to use this imagery, but it has no like impact in the story. I honestly thought maybe they're just gonna say like, no, he actually did die, and this guy's gonna take over,
Yeah,
And I
me
kind of
too.
would have preferred that. Like, I feel like this guy, no offense to the actor for Admiral Noble, but I feel like this guy would pull it off better. He gives me more intimidating and in
Yeah,
command
like
vibes.
I don't know who was the hairstyle designer of this movie, but he or she needs to get a better job. Like the hairstyle of this guy, it's like that's the kind of guy that gets bullied at school and gets called a
Yeah,
virgin until he's
Admiral
40.
Noble.
Honestly, though,
Yeah.
like it's a terrible haircut. Like there's so many ways of like showcasing someone as intimidating.
Yeah, but having this, like, buzzed, weird haircut, it's not doing it for me. Yeah. So they come back to the village after having heroically saved the day and killed Admiral Noble. That's their understanding. They take their sweet time riding their horses out to the village instead of using Kai's ship from the last movie.
And they walk through the field.
And they walk through the field that they've just spent so much time preparing, trampling. You know, it's probably not a significant amount of the crop, but it's still like it's a rude thing. Like, there are paths and trails for a reason. You should be using them, and we'll see that here.
This is something that really annoyed me. The
What?
moment that they walk into the village, they get greeted by these two guys. The hunter and
The new
guy that wants to marry Cora with the hunter.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's just so annoying, the fact that they get there and it's like, oh yeah, welcome. Let's have drinks, let's have meat and food that we've prepared, and it's gonna be awesome. And everyone's like, sure, let's chill. We'll receive our pay for the work that we've done. Number one, they have not done any work. Well, I guess they fought on the other planet, but it was like either you fought or you get jailed, dude.
Or you
like,
or you
get
die.
kidnapped and died. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then no one mentions that, according to them, all they know is that Admiral Noble's dead. And they don't mention anything about it.
Yeah.
They just go in, they have foods, they're about to have food and drink. And it's until they're all the way back in the house,
The longhouse.
the longhouse,
yeah.
that they're like, oh, by the way, he's dead. And then they're like, oh, really? And like, I would have been like, seriously, B? You could have mentioned that,
Yeah, you
like,
could have
when
mentioned that.
we got it, like, we're so scared. The rest of the village is hidden because they're just afraid of what's
Yeah,
going to happen.
like, literally the rest of the village is too ashamed to face their heroes because they can't fight for themselves that they don't show up to greet the rescuers.
And they don't even have the, like, these all noble fighters don't have the guts of telling them, oh, by the way, like, he's dead. Like,
Yeah.
you guys can chill.
Yeah, yeah.
They wait until they go all the way back to the longhouse, and it's just annoying because
Yeah.
it's like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, and also we have, as the audience, have to watch them walk all the way back to the longhouse. Like, it doesn't, like, cut to them in the longhouse.
Yeah, like, I
Yeah.
feel like the editor of the movie was like, oh, we need to get all of these clips in and gotta work with what we have.
And then we get the one surviving good guy from the Empire who has been sending messages to the ship and letting them know that everything is okay, even though he's the only one, and he was, like, obviously the lowest rank one there. Anyway, he's been hanging out with the girl, I don't know their names, the girl that
Sam.
was Sam, her name is Sam? Okay. He's been hanging out with Sam in the mill, and
Making sure that the harvest keeps flowing or whatever.
yeah, telling the Empire that everything is okay, and he learns that they're going to be coming back in 5 days. And so he runs up to the longhouse just in time for them to say that Admiral Noble is alive and they're coming back. They're telling everyone, oh yeah, like, we killed him. Everything is okay. For him to arrive and say, no, they're coming in 5 days. And it's like, I feel like all of this could have been avoided. All of this...
It could have happened right where the bell in the entrance was.
Yeah, because, like, he was right there. They could have had him receive the message as they're walking through the fields instead, and the timing would be right so that they all have the meeting instead of in this longhouse at the entrance to the town by the bell.
Yeah, like, there was no... And that same thing happened on the other movie when Admiral Noble gets there and he's, like, straight to the point, hey, I like your city, we want grain. And MODOK is just like, oh no, like, we're not going to be talking here, let's go get a drink. They walk a little bit further, and then the Admiral Noble's like, okay, but we need grain. And he's like, oh, like, we can't produce that much. Let's go to have a drink. And so they move forward to a third part to have the same exact discussion, and then he dies. Oh, wah wah.
Yeah.
It's like they just dread their exposition so much. And in this movie they did that too. It gets worse.
Yeah,
Somehow it gets worse.
Yeah. But like if they wanted to make this work more smoothly, and they were making it one movie, they should have cut the entire battle, the end battle of the last movie, had our heroes arrive at the town ready to fight, and just cut out all of this nonsense with, oh, is he dead? Is he not dead? Blah, blah, blah. And just cut to, we're here to train you and prepare the fight. We know what's about to happen. They know what's about to happen. Let's go.
And considering that it would have been a very anticlimactic ending for the last movie, then you can just make it into one movie, the whole thing.
Yes, exactly.
Or a miniseries.
Or a miniseries, yeah.
Build up. Something else that we talked about is the fact that Cora is freaking stupid because she's like, oh yeah, no, they won't come here because they need to go back to the mother world because he died. Mm-hmm. So she, in the rank that she had in the army, didn't have any knowledge of how medicine works in this universe. Like, she didn't think that this guy could be rescued and resurrected or whatever.
Yeah, revived, resurrected.
She didn't think that they could do all of these things and that Admiral Noble had a deep connection with the dinosaur. Like, she didn't know any of this. She just takes for granted that he's dead or whatever.
Yeah, like, it's super funny because she's shown to be, in both of the movies, like, the main guard for the princess and the king and queen. The highest ranking officials in the entire empire, and she doesn't know that they can revive people. They don't have that just, like, ready to go for the king and queen.
Yeah, like, for someone of, like, high society, you would know that, like, oh yeah, like, there's this medicine. And even if it's just like, oh, it's only for the nobles.
But
he's the noble.
Yeah. Her dad is the regent and and a senator. Like, if anyone's gonna have access to that, he would. He's also a great military leader in his time. She would know about this technology, and she would think to either finish the job right, make sure that he's actually dead and stays dead, or she would know, hey, it's possible that he's still alive. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't jump straight to the conclusion that, oh no, he's dead and we're fine and we can take our sweet time. Yeah. They would have had more time to prepare for their battle. Yeah.
But, like, again, Cora is presented as a super smart, intelligent character with a lot of background, personality, and talents, and just proceeds to act completely the opposite. Non-brilliant, non-talented.
Yeah. Well, and everything that we just said about Cora, the same applies for General Titus, because he's a general, a great tactician, genius general.
Yeah, he literally gets called the genius General Titus.
Yeah, by Belisarius, by the regent. And it's so ridiculous, because, like, they would know, and they say things that indicate they know about and remember the rules and regulations of the Empire, like, oh, they're going to leave, they're not gonna shoot the grain, all these different things. Why don't they know about the healing pod? Why don't they know about all of these other things? Like, it's there's just so many inconsistencies with it. And now we get General Titus' first speech, where he calls all of the people together.
Okay, when I first heard his speech, it was so like, man, like, I can't believe that writers get paid to write this crap. Like, it was terrible. Considering that there's, like, so many motivational speeches, fictional and real life generals and military figures that have given motivational speeches, this was trash. And it's, like, if it's someone that, like, you don't have the expectation to be a genius General Titus, it's like, okay, it's okay if I get disappointed, but it's like, you have built up to see how amazing this guy is going to be.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is
such a disappointment.
The worst thing is that the plan that he presents is like, okay, so we're going to build our grain, and we're going to have it as a shield so that people don't want to hurt our houses, and then we're going to teach you how to fight. Yeah. Which, when I heard that, it's like, that's the most stupid tactic that you could possibly think of. Yeah. Like, you could honestly just analyze real battle tactics from history and come up with way better plans.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the magic tactic. And it's so funny when later in the movie, the bad guy's like, dang it, they did this. They know it so well. This is definitely some actions from the brilliant General Titus. And he's like...
And it's like, is everyone just
so,
retarded in this universe?
In this world, everyone's stupid. Okay, got it. You know?
Yeah. Okay, glad to know where everyone stands. But yeah, like, his brilliant plan is everyone go to bed tomorrow, and tomorrow and the next 3 days, we're going to harvest all of the grain that you guys have harvested. How long does it normally take? Like
2 weeks or something.
They basically say, like, it normally takes us a whole trip around the gas giant that we live around. And he's like, well, we're going to do it in 3 days. And then everyone's like,
3
what?
days.
How can it be done? What? And then he says, we're going to bring it all in, harvest it, process it. Like, they don't even just fill sacks with the loose grain kernels. They grind the wheat into flour and then put the bags of flour around their buildings, because apparently in this universe there's no way to produce food on a giant ship out in the middle of space. Like, they rely on getting grain and supplies from these planets. They don't have any method of production or recycling of
And the
food
entire army
products.
works on grain.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny how the village is like, oh man, I have forgotten the taste of meat. It's so good. And then you get the army is like, we'll live out of bread.
Yeah, it's like, we'll just eat bread, only bread, all the time, always. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, like, I don't believe, and this is why I think that this would be better in a fantasy or medieval setting, I don't believe that this empire that has the technology to create, like, warp portals through space doesn't have a way to produce food for its spacecraft. And they have to rely on these moons out here. The other thing, in the previous movie, they go down to the planet of King Leviticus, who was supporting all of the blood axes and stuff, and they don't, instead of taking all their food and resources, they just blow the place up. So, like, obviously food isn't that important to them, or they would have said, like, oh no, let's take some time, let's grab the food that they have, the supplies. We're this low on supplies that we actually need it. No, they're just like, yeah, we'll just blow it all up and go to this planet where we're going to get some food, even though we're going to leave them starving and they're probably not going to want to listen, you know? It's super dumb.
However, if it was set in a fantasy setting...
Yeah, if it's set in a fantasy setting, I can understand, okay, this army that travels on foot with, like, horses and men, they have to bring the supplies, and supply chains are difficult. I can understand that, like, yes, they're going to take advantage of there being a place that can make food here. That makes more sense, you know. In this, it doesn't make sense. Because also, like, how big is this moon? Is there not another farming village on the other side of the moon?
I mean, we know that there's at least a cantina with a bunch of weird random aliens.
Yeah.
So, like...
How do they get all their food? You know? Like, can the Empire not just steal from them? Yeah. And then that leaves them with 2 days to train all of these farmers and villagers how to fight the Empire.
And granted, it is easier to learn how to shoot a gun
than to fight well with swords.
With swords or, like, bow and arrow.
Yeah, you know,
but
just point
still,
and shoot, but...
Someone that has never held a weapon before, that has zero experience with aim, and in one of the 10,000 montages that we get later in this movie, it's like, oh look, I'm so good at this. They just developed talent in a couple of days.
Like, we never see them fail in that montage. Everyone is hitting the mark. No one's, like, missing wildly or struggling with it.
Not only, like, the characters that we have already been introduced to, but also random people that somehow get major roles later, like the kid.
Yeah.
It's just like they just all are so good at all of this.
Yep. He gives his stirring speech saying, like, oh, we need to trust each other, we need to work together, we have 5 days to get this all done, and everyone's like, okay, and apparently they're inspired by it, even though I wouldn't be. And
I would be like, oh, okay, so we're screwed.
Yeah, it's like, if I were any of these villagers, it'd be like, okay, like, me and my family, we're going to go to that cantina place and make up a new life. Maybe we can make beer or something and hopefully not get raped by scrotum-faced aliens. Yeah.
Okay, and then we have probably I remember mentioning last video saying something like, "Man, this romance that came out of nowhere.
It's
like
so forced.
There's no reason for you to love her." Then in here is like, "Oh, you didn't like that? Then you're gonna love this." Because they made it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Zero chemistry between characters that have like I want to say I love you, but I never do, is already kind of annoying. Now imagine characters that have zero chemistry between each other, that are forced to sleep together and kiss around and say I love you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, like, I'm sure that these actors are putting an effort, but it doesn't work out with a terrible script, bad performances, and the circumstances they are in.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so when they started like, I thought that I was gonna lose you, and they started kissing, then we just cut into like them sleeping together already. It's just like, wow. So this is terrible, huh?
Yeah, it's really bad. She asks like, "Oh, do you think that they're gonna be ready to fight?" And he's like, "I had never fought until that day," and basically implying he had never done any battle until, they're fighting on the platforms against the Empire. And he's like, "But it was all okay, because if I didn't fight and I lost you, it would be 1,000 times worse." Like, that's like the quality of writing we're getting, basically. And it's so bad because...
Yeah, I mean, at least the like bad love script on the prequels of Star Wars was memeable. This is just miserable.
This is just cringe. Yeah, like, it's all so cringe, and there's no chemistry between them. There's no reason to believe that this is a relationship that they've fallen into. It's just been forced and pushed so quick. Like, hey, like, it's like Zack Snyder has his two dolls. He has his Barbie and his G.I. Joe, and he's like, "Now kiss."
Yeah. Oh, but it's until this point that they decided to make this character, in air quotes, interesting by saying that Korra actually was the one that killed the magic mystic Rapunzel daughter. Like,
yeah, she's the Scargiver because she killed the princess and is the assassin to the king and queen as well. And we get another terrible flashback.
Yeah, like, Korra needs to have, like, I don't know, she just flashbacks all the time. And then we get to this, it's probably, despite having watched so many flashbacks in these movies, this is probably the worst one I have ever watched. Because, okay, it's not only poorly recorded, poorly scripted, poorly performed, even though it has, like, magic, violins and a cello playing in the background that somehow know what's going on in the, like, rest of the room, even though they have, like, their eyes folded. It's just bad, and it makes absolutely zero sense, everything that happens in this scene. They wanted to make this character extra dark past. Somehow she escapes from this major ship that was all filled with warriors and soldiers.
Well, first, so she arrives with the king and queen. She's their bodyguard. She's trusted. And her father, the senator at this point, is there with a bunch of other senators, and they've made this plot to kill the king and queen. They enact the plot, and he yells at his daughter to shoot the girl, shoot Princess Issa. And she looks at her and says, "I forgive you." And then she says, "You shouldn't," and shoots her. And we see a flash of light. And then Belisarius, the dinosaur, immediately says, "Look, the assassin, an offworlder," and throws his daughter under the bus. So the entire, 20-year relationship that he built with her, he just throws it away because he wants to become the king.
Evil.
And he's evil, yeah. And it's just like, wow, I can't believe it. And all of these senators are here. All of these, there's a few other, guards here. None of them are going to say anything. None of them are going to be like, "Hey, actually, Belisarius was behind the plot to kill the king."
He was Belisarius all along.
Yeah, it was Belisarius all along. The dinosaur did it. No, we don't get anything like that. It's just it's just as simple as he blames her and everyone agrees that it's her. The end. And then somehow
nickname her the Scargiver.
Yeah, nickname her the Scargiver, and then She is somehow able to fight her way and escape from this ship that has tons of military people. They don't immediately like sound the alarm. Oh, Arthelaus has killed the king and queen. Capture or kill her at all costs. Do not let her escape. No, instead she's just able to escape. She gets on a pod and she flies away, and they don't catch her, and they don't track her. Nothing. Okay, this guy, he looks like a YouTuber that I watch sometimes that does like Dungeons and Dragons content. Runesmith or something like that. But he gives me the exact same vibes as that guy. And he says, well, it doesn't matter what you did in your past because I can still love you. And it's like, I don't know, like killing the king and queen who were... Okay, another thing that we didn't get. They were apparently the king, by just being around his virtuous daughter, was becoming less and less inclined to continue the war machine, the war efforts. And that's why Belisarius the dinosaur wanted to kill him and take his place, because he wants war, because he loves war so much. That's how evil he is. Mm-hmm. And just being around this princess caused the king to be less and less evil. And it's just, it's so cringe. It's such bad writing. Like, oh, we have the magical daughter who can do everything. She can save everything.
Somehow it gets worse.
Yeah, somehow it gets worse. And so Gunnar forgives her, and they are still a relationship somehow. And then we... Oh. Yeah, do you want to take this one?
So it's kind of funny that Mr. I Want to Marry Corin the Hunter comes in with a bell and starts waking up our heroes, including General Titus, the what's his name, Tarak, who had been a slave for quite a while, the last little bit. And you see in the background though, there's people already awake and on going on about their day, and it's like, man, you can really tell the discipline of these heroes who needed a wake up call, and they were the ones that were gonna be motivating them to finish the work of 3 weeks in 3 days.
Yeah, General Titus specifically said, "We wake up and begin work at dawn." And then here he is asleep, and everyone else is already awake, except for our heroes need to be woken up by the town leader, and they need to get woken up and get moving from the townspeople, instead of, being the ones that are like, okay, everyone, like up, 2 hours before dawn. Like in the military, in boot camp, they have like tons of training on like, you're not going to get sleep when you think that you need it. We're going to beat that out of you. You're going to you're going to be disciplined and wake up when you need to and sleep when you need to. And instead of that, the general is just apparently drunk, asleep with the other heroes. They should have been up at like 3 a.m, getting everyone up and out the door. Like, nope, I said dawn. I lied. Let's go. We got to get this work done. And we get a montage of farming.
I feel like this is why it made this movie so dreadful to me. There were like 10 montages of them just harvesting. Yeah. And then another 10 montages of them learning how to fight. And it's just dreadful. Oh, and I guess they're like divided by these little short scenes of Admiral Noble losing his head. Yeah. And then Admiral Noble noticing that there's the rest of the people, his people and the moon actually died. Somehow he just knows that they're all dead because, So it's like we get these little short clips of Admiral Noble coming up to conclusions and being evil. And in the meantime, we also get 10,000 montages. And it's just like, they're all in slow-mo. So it's just so boring. Because like, okay, we get it. They got the grain. Mm-hmm. Why do we need to watch this 10 times? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And if you thought that we were lying about Zack Snyder trying to portray him as like a Christ figure when he was laying down in a cross shape, now he's wearing a robe, he has a scar on his torso, and he has a halo around his head, and he will bring justice to the Scargiver. I think that Zack Snyder is kind of obsessed with Jesus Christ, which, that's probably a good thing. But, like, you don't need to bring it in and put it on your villain,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we get that scene where he's finally cleared from the medical staff to be the Admiral again.
Well, he forced himself to get cleared by killing one of his nurses, which is stupid. Like,
yeah. There's no reason to kill your own men. Like, if you do that you're wishing for them
and like,
to
if you
have
want
a
to
mutiny.
be intimidated, you can hurt them badly. You
Yeah.
can like grab them from the throat and pretend they're gonna kill them, but then just let them go and be like, "Let me go," and they'll be like, "Oh yes, yes, yes."
Yeah.
That is like, if you see people being afraid of them, there's like, "Oh man, okay, maybe there's a little bit more intimidating." But if you're just like, "Haha, die, stupid Jedi's," it's like, "Oh okay."
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's lame. And then we get more harvesting the crops. Everyone's working together. It's such a lovely
In
time.
Slow motion.
Also,
we for some reason get this little
so this kid here.
introduction to this kid that has like a very special bond with Nemesis for some reason, and Nemesis really likes this kid. We're gonna come up to the end, so like, oh man, so there's gonna like, we were thinking that, oh, so this kid's gonna die, and like Nemesis is gonna be very sad, and or vice versa.
Yeah. One of these people is dying,
Yeah,
and the other one is going to be very sad about
and they
it.
feel the need to, throughout the entirety of the movie, just have them looking at each other, never saying anything. They just look at each other, and we're supposed to think that they have a very meaningful relationship, and yeah. It's just weird and out of nowhere, but we got that.
And this kid is spooked because she was asleep, but she caught the thing I was going to use to tickle her with. So he's kind of spooked, but it's also like kind of cute because but no, like they're trying to make it cute and failing miserably. And we get Titus here pretending to be drunk. He has his flask and he dips it in water. Cora sees, and it's basically trying to imply like, oh, everyone thinks he's drunk, but actually he's being responsible and drinking water so that he can have a clear head for the fight and be a good strategist, even though he's not. No one is.
Yeah, so before we proceed with more montages, we have the scene where Sam, the farm girl of the village, just makes little cute flags for all of the members of the team that they're gonna save them. Even makes one for Gunner as well, and she just gives them out, and it's like a nice little gesture that she had for other people, question mark.
Yeah, so it's like a token of their gratitude for each of them. They give one to General Titus, to Tarek, who up until this point I don't think has had a single line in this entire
I don't
movie.
think that he was actually given any line, because later when he's actually talking, he's just like, "Oh, I guess we're doing this. Run, run, run. Huh,
Yeah.
that was close." You know, he's just trying
Yeah.
to say stuff, but
He has no meaningful lines
yeah.
in this entire thing, except for his flashback.
Also, if we were to, like, we're supposed to be caring about these characters, and we don't really do much, so, it's kind of just like a long, boring scene of them getting gifts when it's like, we don't know that these farmers have a meaningful relationship with the warriors. We don't have a meaningful relationship with the warriors. And the warriors, between the warriors, don't have a meaningful relationship. So we're just here celebrating and hugging and loving. And it's just boring. Because no one cares. Like, I'm sorry, Sam. I don't care about your stupid flags. I've just watched 3 montages of you all doing grain. The least thing I need is another dreadful scene of seeing how you made pretty little flags for the people I don't care about.
And it's extra funny because they make one for General Titus, for Tarek, for Nemesis, for Cora, and for Gunner, who already lived there and was part of their community. But they didn't make one for the private who was in their community for 12 weeks protecting them and who she has a strong relationship with.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like, the one guy who probably deserves a flag from her doesn't get one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get this little scene of General Titus singing in some native language, and it just comes out of nowhere. Like, you wouldn't otherwise think that he is from some other culture that has some other language, except for he just stands up and starts singing after everyone's been dancing, and it comes from absolutely nowhere,
And it's boring.
and it's boring.
Like at this, like, and like it come. This is why I feel like this movie was so dreadful to me. Like the other one at least had some like interesting, meaningful, like not meaningful, memeable things that were happening. And here's just like a montage scene that gets nowhere. Another montage, and then like, oh look how meaningful these characters are. Another montage, and then more boring, boring, boring. I like, it's. I knew that at this point we just hadn't even half the way through, and I was just like, oh man, like let it end already. Just
Yeah, like,
have the Imperium come and kill everyone already, please.
yeah. At this point, it felt like it had been an hour, and it's only 30 minutes in. Another thing I just realized, this part, and just like the first one, is plagued by a terrible lens on the camera. This clip right here kind of shows it, how, like, yes, normally you have the subject of a scene be in focus and everything else be out of focus, but it gives this, like, weird, warped, out of focus on the edges that most movies don't have, and it's unsettling in this one, and any of the ones that I have seen it in. I don't like the choice of
Especially
lens.
when you have a face on the edge, and it just makes it look like crooked and weird.
Yeah, like all of this here, like it kind of warps and swirls around the edge, and like these are supposed to be straight vertical lines, but they curve in weird, and it's just unsettling, and makes everything look like it's spinning, and it's distracting throughout the whole movie. And the robot. Okay, let's talk about the robot for a bit. He's just been like wandering around outside this village. Apparently, he's not helping anyone. He's just kind of there, and they don't explain why. They don't explain why he's not helping. They don't explain why he wants to stay out. Later on, we see that he thinks that it's stupid that they're planning to fight, but then he chooses to fight with them. And it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't even fight with them from the beginning of the fight.
Yeah.
He just comes in at the end when everything seems lost.
Yeah.
And he's just like, man, so like... And it's kind of... For me, it kind of felt like Captain Marvel arriving, because it's like... He has perfect aim, can stand bullets, and it looks like he can literally fly. So if they would have just introduced him at the early parts of the battle, it would have been a way faster, quicker, not impressive battle. And I feel like that's probably why they introduced him so late. But character-wise, it just makes zero sense.
Yeah.
Like, you should have just not come in at all.
Yeah. You know what I thought they were going to do with him that would actually have been kind of interesting is, like, she is accused to have killed the king and queen. She thinks that she killed the daughter. It would have been really interesting if he's like, I can get revenge for the king and queen. I can slay the Scargiver. Like, that would have been a really interesting drama. And then him coming to realize, no, like, she's a good person, actually. What is a good person for this robot? And then later, what we learn as well, that I'll save that till the end, because it's too... perfect.
Too stupid.
And yeah, too perfectly stupid. Yeah, like, just like every other character, Jimmy, the robot, is a wasted character. Wasted potential. And we get, like, he's, like, laying down listening to this music that Titus is singing, and it doesn't make sense. Like, why are you showing us this? Just to show that he's a complex character that isn't just what you expect a robot to be? But they never give us a payoff for it. Like, it's not a surprise that the robot comes and fights at the end. Even though you haven't been building it up, like, we all know that he's going to participate in some way.
Guess what? Do you think you got rid of montages? Well, no, because now we get to learn how to fight. So... After we have another brief pause, just all of them getting their flags, getting to hear General Titus sing, now we have a montage of them learning how to use weapons. Apparently, they are just going to be using the weapons that the battalion, the guards that were there looking after them, that all died because of Koran, because them being rapists. They're going to be using those. And also knives and sticks.
Yeah, so
they
get out all of the weapons from the Empire that the like 8 guards left. And they're like, okay, well, this is good. We've got a bunch of military-grade weapons. What else do we have? And they pull out all the hunting rifles and old other rifles and weapons that they have, and any sharp tool, and or any tool that can be sharpened, and they get them all ready to fight with.
Yeah. And they're going to learn how to use all of these things.
In 2 days.
Yeah. And if you think that that's kind of stupid... imagine having to watch that through a slow-mo montage. Mm-hmm. And then not just that, but all of them succeeded incredibly. Mm-hmm. And not just that, we come to the best part of the whole, like, getting ready for the battle. The fact that Korra knows where she landed her ship, and it can still fly, and it's working properly, but somehow it's all crashed. Mm-hmm. It's like she didn't have to crash. She knew how to pilot the ship, mm-hmm. and it still works. It's not like it got destroyed or malfunctioning. She just crashed it.
Yeah, like they don't show anything wrong with the ship. It wasn't hit and she fell out of the sky. It obviously didn't run out of fuel because it's flying now, and they don't show her getting injured and like passing out while she's flying it, causing it to crash. None of these things happen. It makes no sense that she crash landed, and it makes no sense that no one has done anything with the shuttle in the 2.5, 3 seasons.
And it makes no sense that the fact that it's like crashed, it still works perfectly fine.
Yeah, even after the crash. Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that makes no sense is not only do they train everyone in the village how to fight with these weapons, they also go and salvage the ship and get it ready to fly and fly it away. And they also were digging like tunnels and trenches out here, preparing the field for battle. Like, you'll see when we get to it, but there's tons of tunnels, trenches with booby traps, mines, explosives placed out there ready for the battle. And they did all of that, apparently, in 2 days. Another thing, look at this field. They were just out there harvesting the wheat, and it looks like they pulled all the way to the root and got these stalks of wheat out. They didn't like cut and leave a short stubble. It just all got plucked completely out of the ground. Like when you harvest wheat, there's an amount of the stalk of the plant that gets left behind in the dirt. And eventually it gets tilled up and mulched back in. But unless they did that, for this entire field, this is an inaccurate scene of what we're seeing. Like, I guess you can see like a couple little plants out here, but it doesn't look like a field that's been freshly harvested. Not to me. Also, maybe this ship would have been nice to help move tons of wheat in the harvest. But no, they get it after.
Okay, this movie is so boring and so stupid. Mm-hmm. So, okay, remember last movie? Unfortunately, for those who watched it, we had like a ton of flashbacks. Mm-hmm. And so far, this movie had only had one flashback.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're not even an hour yet, and we're just gonna be drowned in flipping 4 flashbacks.
Yeah.
Because General Titus is like, I'm gonna tell you all my backstory, even though we already know his backstory. He's like, well, no, but this is my backstory in detail. Yeah. And we're actually going to see it. So we get to see the actor portraying his general role, and like this fight that he gave up on earlier. And so he's like, this is my confession. And now all of you need to confess something too. And so each of them take turns to share and confess their stories, which is not really a confession, it's just more background stories. And it's like, okay, I guess we didn't know Millicent's backstory, but we knew that she became a rebel, but no, now we get to see it with our own eyes. And all of this scene takes like 20 minutes. It's in slow-mo, and it's so boring because we already know this. And we don't care if you present it to us in extra detail. It doesn't get anywhere. Like, it's just more exposition. And the worst thing is of stuff that we already know or we don't even need to know.
Okay. Yeah. So this is part of the reason why I say, like, really Zack Snyder should have made a miniseries here, because in the first movie we get like a 10-minute scene for each of the characters, how they get them to join the party. And then in this movie we get a 10-minute series of flashbacks showing how all of them got to where they are. Spoiler alert, all of them have the same exact backstory, except maybe General Titus. I lived in a small village that was attacked and subjugated by the Empire, and then I decided to fight back.
Except, I guess, Tarak, who didn't live in a small village but was a
Oh,
prince.
yeah. He
but
was a
also
prince,
his
but...
planet got destroyed and he decided to...
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone has the same exact backstory. My family was killed, or my village was attacked, and I decided to fight back.
And it's like, it's not that you can have a mini series that doesn't work out. So, like, the Netflix series of One Piece introduced the character pretty much every episode, and it worked out great to the point that at the end of the show, you're like, oh man, I actually care about these characters. And this, for example, this little flashback thing is kind of give me the vibe that it could have been done like that episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender when they're in Ba Sing Se, and you just have like a little bit of like title screen, you have a little bit of like how their days look like, and then you move on to the next character, you know? Like, in an hour-long episode, you can share all of these flashbacks with a little bit more detail and do all of the exposition that you want. And people are going to watch it because you already have them hooked with these characters that you have already established a little bit more. And it's like, oh, nice, we get to see why, up to this point I didn't know this, but why Nemesis has robot hands.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Or like, oh, now we get to see where Millie's comes from and what was her life before, you know? And because you already care about the characters, it's like a nice little thing. But so far, none of us care about these characters because we've been with them, 3 hours? And they've had, 3 lines?
Yeah.
And it's like, none of the things that they have done has had any consistency or meaning. So you showing us Nemesis cutting off her hands to be extra robotic and make this source woman out of her. It's like, okay, cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it's just boring. It's like, okay, now I know that it was not a hand of flesh and bones, but a hand of robot. And it's like, oh, I guess you were a young, little, not threatening lady, but now that you have these gauntlets, you are evil, or like you're more powerful, you know? It's like, okay, that's not important. How about if you tell us something meaningful? Like, if they would have just told the story about the relationship between her and her kids, or, I don't know, maybe there was some sort of like, oh, I could have saved them, but I was a coward, and they died, and so now they decided to, like, be courageous and punish myself by cutting my own hands. But no, all you got is like, I was bad. So, no, I was weak. So these hands taught me how to be strong, and now I'm a swordswoman. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they don't even, so the whole time, like, these flashbacks, they're not even true flashbacks. It's like the character narrating what happens while we watch it. It's not like we're jumping back in time and seeing a scene take place. Instead, we just get a voiceover the whole time, and we don't get like the characters that they're telling the story to, their reaction of it. We just get, here's the voiceover, here's what happened to me, next person. Here's the voiceover,
yeah, and it's not
here's
even
what
a
happened.
smooth transition between one flashback and the other one. Like, it's kind of funny how, like, Gerald Titus is like, so I saw them all die, and I promised to myself that I would never run again. Literally 1 second later, Millis is like, so my village was a nice little village, and I got kidnapped. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, there's no one comments on anyone else's story. It just, like, here is my story. Oh, here is my story. oh, here's my story.
I didn't do shit.
Yeah. And, like, but the reason that this bothers me, that, like, it's not a true flashback and it's not, like, we don't get to see the reactions of the characters, is because we're missing out on development of the character by it not being a true flashback and seeing, like, what actually happened, what actually was going on in their mind at the time, not what are their thoughts on it now. And we also lose out on the character development, the relationships between the characters, because they're not interacting at all. We don't even get to see, like, okay, what does Cora think about Nemesis's story? What does Nemesis think about Tarek's story? We don't get any of that. We just get, here are our stories.
And it would be very interesting if they interacted with each other. You know, like, Tarek, feeling like he was a coward to honor his bloodline and his father's, ran away not to fight. And then hearing Melis's story, who she was weak and decided to become strong and join the rebels, it's like, man, I really admire that of you. You are like what I couldn't be. But they don't say that.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, good. Anyway, I was a prince. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, super, like, it just feels like each of them recorded their parts in their houses, and then they had a Zoom call, and then just shared what they brought in, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Like a school project where everyone just brings their part, and none of them practice together all together, like, before present showing up, you know? So
I'm not sure how these swords work, but if I understand right, you have to have either these special gloves or robot arms to be able to hold them, because the entire blade is, like, burning, including the handle, which we'll see later. And so somehow with her left hand, she cut off her right arm with the hot glowing blade and put on the right robot arm. And now she's able to immediately use that one to cut off the left arm. And it just, like, I don't understand how these are supposed to work in the universe. And, like, I know that I'm probably nitpicking a lot about what's going on with these swords, but I feel like this sort of thing would also have been better done in a fantasy setting, where it's like, oh, I have these, like, cursed gauntlets from my family, this cursed blade that thirsts for blood. It contains
the souls of those that were killed by it.
Yeah. It contains... Exactly. Like, have it be some cursed blade that now that she picks it up in anger, she can't put it down until she exacts her revenge, or something like that. But instead we just get, no, these are just some robot arms, and apparently they hold the anger of all of her family, whatever that means.
Yeah, and somehow they also taught her how to be a ninja.
Yeah, like, did she get a software update when she put the gloves on that's like, oh, downloading samurai skills?
Especially when she literally said, like, I had never killed anyone nor spilled blood. 2 seconds later, she's cutting spider arms down.
Yeah. I know Kung Fu. And now we get Tarek's story. He was a prince. And now it makes sense that he was so good with this bird, because apparently they have birds in their culture. He looks like a 1920s...
Like, yeah, flippin', like, what's it called? Noir type of movie?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
feels like I'm Detective Sherlock Holmes, and...
yeah, he looks like he's some detective from the 40s or whatever. And it's just weird. Like, it's so out of place with everything that we've seen so far.
And it's like, you can have different cultures from different planets and bond pretty well, you know? Star Wars does it, Dune does it, there's a lot of ways to do it. But this is just like, what movie am I watching now? Because there's so many flashbacks so close together.
And then General Titus, like, it's obvious that he knows what she's hiding, because he's like, Cora, is there something that you want to share? And she's like, nope, there's nothing. Are you sure?
Okay, here's the thing though. Like, if you know that I did something bad, you as my partner, if someone comes to me and it's like, are you sure you don't want to share something? Cora, would you be like, hey, why did you back off, friend?
Yeah, Gunnar does nothing to protect her.
Yeah, Gunner's just like, yeah, Carter, you have anything to say now?
Yeah, he's almost like, yeah, no, you should tell him that thing, the thing you told me yesterday? Maybe you should share that. No?
I know what she's hiding.
Yeah, I know. It's a big secret. Anyway.
Or like literally any of the other characters, you know, like Millis or Nemesis as
Yeah.
like a standouts for another like assist, you know, like a
Yeah.
woman. You know, it's like, hey, maybe you should chill a little bit.
Yeah, chill out, General Titus. Like, if she's not ready, she's not ready.
Up to this point, as far as we're concerned, he's drunk.
Yeah.
No one knows that he's not drinking
No,
water.
I think that they did establish that he
At
like
this point?
in this scene. I think that they say, "How's the spring water?"
Yes,
or whatever.
it happens right after he asks
Oh,
her.
that's right.
That's how she gets out of the hook.
That's how she gets out of it. She gets out of the question by bringing up that he's not drunk.
So as far as we're concerned, like all of these guys think that he's drunk and he's like, Cora, are you sure you don't want to share anything? Like they couldn't even make a joke of saying like, hey, did you guys like work together before? Like, you know, something like with a little bit of personality.
Yeah.
But no, everyone's just like quiet.
Yeah, like
Not
it's
saying
so
anything.
awkward. It's so awkward and cringe. Just like this whole movie. And so she doesn't say, and she says, "Oh, you're drinking spring water now." And
And they laugh. That's
they
how you know
laugh.
they're friends.
yep. If you laugh with someone, that means you're their friend. Okay, and they send okay. So the King's Gaze is coming in. They're gonna land and have their big encounter. Cora flies the ship up out of the way so it's hidden.
Hides it or something.
Yeah.
And that's where she finds Jimmy.
It's a Jimmy man. And basically, James just says, you're gonna fight, but that's stupid. You shouldn't fight. You're gonna lose.
Yeah, it's so stupid the fact that he. Well, no. First, they have a conversation about how meaningful it was to him to be called James.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I have no hope, but like you calling me that made me feel alive. I
Yeah.
haven't felt alive in years.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like okay, and then he's like, also you guys are gonna lose, and then he cuts to the next scene.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
like
so
we
out of
don't
place
gotta-
and weird.
I legit thought, you know how sometimes movies go into saying something like you're gonna lose and then cuts to a next scene because later we're gonna come back to this conversation that they had and it's like you're gonna lose and then she's like, well, what do you think that? And then he's gonna present something and he's gonna come out to us as an audience as a surprise later because Cora's gonna bring out as a secret weapon. It's like Jimmy said that we were gonna lose. But now I know your secret, so I'm gonna come up with some other idea, and it's gonna be awesome. You know,
Yeah.
I thought that something like that was gonna happen. You know, like a bag comeback. No, they just got it there.
Yeah,
weirdly.
he just says you're gonna lose, and then they cut and move
To
on
the
to the
next
next scene,
scene,
and
yes.
they never come back to the scene.
And despite he believing that they legit have no hope of winning, he still shows up to fight. Like
Yeah.
it's like,
Well, maybe it's
what motivated you to fight?
yeah.
Why didn't you join from the beginning? Why did you say that they were gonna lose to still risk your robotic life
Yeah.
later for them?
Yeah, like my thoughts on that are like if he believes that they're gonna lose, why would he join at all? Unless maybe he realizes, oh, they do have a chance to win now, and I can seal the deal, even though that's totally not the case.
Or at least doesn't get established that
That's
way.
yeah, it's not. We never learn why he decides to fight.
And if they would have, instead of cutting it right after he's like, you guys are gonna lose, you could have had Cora had some personality and be like, you know, it's very likely, but at least I'm gonna die with some like die fighting for these people
Yeah,
who
I'm
have
gonna
become
die
my family.
doing something
and then he's
that's
like,
right.
oh man, she reminds me of what it is to do something and die for something you care. You know
Yeah.
what? I'm actually going to join.
Yeah.
And that could have been fixed with 2 lines from Cora, but no, that would mean giving her personality.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't want to do that with our hero.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want her to look weak, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
why? You know?
Yeah.
Um,
And like, it just doesn't make sense what they do with him because, like, if he decides I'm gonna fight anyway, even though I know we're gonna lose, why isn't he fighting from the very beginning?
Mm-hmm.
And if he decides to fight because now they're gonna win, I can make the difference or whatever. Like, it makes him look like a cowardly robot.
the worst thing is that they present him as this super smart robot that can calculate where to shoot so that he can shoot perfectly, calculate strategies. He scans all of the warriors when they walk into the city to know what type of weapons they have. Basically like a super machine.
Yeah.
And later when he's fighting, we know that it's like super agile, basically can fly, and it's just like, so if you would have just joined from the beginning, you didn't even have to bring up, hey, you were going to lose.
Yeah.
Because you can just be like, hey,
Like-
I'll help you. so you don't lose.
Yeah. Yeah, like, that's what he should have said, is that you're going to lose unless I help you. I'll help you. You know, that could have been it. That could have been the entire conversation.
Maybe he did record that, but the editor just decided to cut it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I don't know what happened at this point in the movie, that some of the faces of I feel like they just hired a different makeup artist. Some of the faces of the characters just look completely different, and the one that got the biggest toll out of it, it's poor Gunner.
Yeah,
who looks
he
just
looks
like
so
50
weird.
suddenly.
Yeah, it looks super weird all of a sudden. So yeah, look at all these trenches that they have, and they're laying explosives, getting everything all set, and apparently the sensors of the ship can't detect. Oh yeah, there's been Earth work
Yeah,
done.
the Imperium designs robots that can literally detect the weapons that a bunch of warriors
And like
are coming
see through the buildings later.
Yes, but they cannot come up with like a radar of finding out explosives or like holes on the land as you're landing.
Yeah, their sensors could go through the buildings, but they can't go through a little bit of dirt on some cloth over these trenches.
And you can come up with the argument that they wouldn't point it that way, but if you're going to land your ship there, might as well like scan the land.
Yeah. And so they realize, oh, they put all of the grain out in front of their buildings, so we can't shoot them. And it's like
That's the most stupid strategy I have ever heard.
Yeah, and I cannot believe that they actually need the grain that bad. Like there has to be a way for them to get more grain. Why don't they just have another ship from the Empire come through a portal with more grain for them? Mm-hmm. You know, they have the resources to do that. But no, they want to get this grain.
Yeah, so hearing the genius General Titus come up with this idea, it's like funny. And then when you see the Imperium actually worry about the grain because it's displayed in this idea, it's like, oh, okay, so everyone's just dumb.
Yeah. And so, another couple things that I don't like. We don't get, we see the preparations made for the battle on the villager side, but we don't get any planning or any notion of, what is their objective? What is their goal? How are they going to fight back against the Empire? How do they think they're going to get out of this alive? And then here, we get Admiral Noble with his massive technology. They can literally see through this building and see all the people in there, and we get them saying, okay, we're going to send a team in to kidnap all of their women and children so that we can use them as hostages to get a better deal. And it's like, okay, yeah, good, he's evil and he's making his plan. I wish that we got a little bit of the hero's plan. It would be nice. Instead, we just get to, go along with them. And they never explain it to each other because they already know the plan. We never get the plan, though. So we see this giant fleet of all of these shuttles with all of these men, these giant tanks coming down. There's 3 of these giant tanks and tons of shuttles of men coming down to collect this grain, potentially. But they know that they're going to fight because they know that Cora's alive and here, and Cora and her team know that they're going to fight. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Why don't you just start fighting? And the best part is, who arrives to do this exchange? Admiral Noble himself. Fresh out of the Bacta tanks, fresh out of the healing potions. Yeah, fresh out of the incubator. They should have left him in longer. Maybe they didn't cook his brain long enough. Because he decides, I'm going to come down to the planet. And
where the Scargiver herself is.
Yeah, where the Scargiver is, the one who assassinated the king and queen.
And him.
And him. And I'm going to get, not only in, rifle range and shooting distance from the village, I'm going to get within melee range from the Scargiver. Brilliant idea.
Yeah. Oh man, whoever designed the makeup and hair out of these poor people, oh my god.
Yeah, her haircut is so bad, and this is the first time we get the weird pudgy face version.
Of course, you can really tell because it's shot so terribly.
Yeah, this is a great example of the weird out of focus background. And then they have an interaction. She's like, "Leave now, so that you don't, die."
And he's like, "Shut up! You come now, so that they don't die."
Yeah, and it's like it's obvious that the Empire has the upper hand. You are so outmatched. You don't even have the blood axes here to help you.
And it's so funny that she actually it's gonna be like, you know what, you're right. I'm gonna go with you. When it's like, don't you know these people? Didn't you work with them? Like if you go with them, they're still gonna die.
Yeah, yeah. Like she agrees to go with them, and it's really a weird situation because she says like, as long as you don't hurt them, I'll go. Even though General Titus already had a bad experience with that. And she worked for the Empire.
Yeah.
She knows how
Literally,
bad they
last
are.
movies like, how do you know how they're going to behave? It's like because that's what I would do.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, so in this scenario, what would you do? Have mercy on them?
Mm-hmm. Also, this guy and like a couple other guys look like a character that was in the fight in the last movie. And it just makes me laugh because I feel like maybe they forgot that this guy died in the last battle. Anyway, probably not. I'm probably just crazy. Yeah, it's just bad. So while they're having this conversation, these guys sneak over to the longhouse to try and capture the women and children. And so they're making this deal. She's gonna go with them, and he's apparently gonna let the women and children and all the people go. And she hugs Gunner. And he's
Because
like,
she loves him.
because she loves him. He's like, what is going on? What are you doing? And he is like ready to fight with his pudgy face. And so he steals her blaster, and instead of, I don't know, shooting Admiral Noble to start things off, what does he do? He shoots the bell, because that was the signal to get started. Sorry. So Admiral Noble sees this guy pop out of the ground with a
like,
rocket launcher.
"Oh."
Ooh. and then the guy shoots the rocket launcher, blows up the thing. They were out in this field a decent ways, but apparently they just jump into the pond here, jump into the river.
The grenade launcher doesn't even kill Admiral Noble then, even though he was just like close enough to be like, whoo.
Yeah, he was right next to the blast. This blast blows up this ship, and I think it even blows up another ship. But he's pretty much fine. And now the villagers, some of them are out in those trenches and they're ready to fight. And she goes up to get in the ship. And Admiral Noble goes all like Terminator mode.
Yeah.
And runs through these trenches.
Range.
Yeah. Runs through these trenches just killing a bunch of guys.
And I feel like they tried to do that in like a way of being like, see how evil and like good at fighting he is?
Yeah,
but it's like
he is an actual threat, even though we saw him die to Korra last movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't do anything last movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so then one of these ships tries to leave, but someone throws a grenade on it. I think Den, the hunter, throws a grenade on it, and he's out here being a bad A, killing a bunch of people, being a good hunter. Oh, and Nemesis has her fight with all of these other lightsaber-wielding bad guys. Ugh. And like...
So yeah, we have like 3 different scenes going on at the same time, which you can make it work, but as of right now it's just boring. So you have Nemesis and the women and children all fighting on the longhouse. You have Korra and Gunner trying to get to the ship so that they can go back to the King's Gaze.
Yeah, so they can go to the major ship,
and destroy it that way.
Yeah.
And you also have the flippin' hunter, what's his name, Den?
Yeah.
Who climbs on a ship and just starts like fighting Admiral Noble himself.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I'm gonna have the boss fight now.
Yes, and like it's kind of funny how he comes out of nowhere, but he's actually doing what like any civilian in here would do, just trying to fight for what he loves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like Korra being flipping stupid, is like, okay, fine, I'll give my life. And when you had a blaster on you,
Mm-hmm.
you could have just shot him, but
Yep.
it's so funny because, like, you had signs so that people could throw a grenade at the rest of the army the moment you shot Admiral Noble. So it could have been a way more prepared fight, but instead you just wanted to play poor damsel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, coming back to this scene about Nemesis fighting these guys, apparently, like, I wasn't positive. In the last movie, I thought that she was blocking bullets with these, like, blaster shots. And I'm not sure, are they bullets? Are they blasters? Is it, like, energy? I don't know what type of projectiles they're shooting. But you can block them with these swords. But there's no indication that they have, like, superhuman reflexes like Jedi do to be able to block these incoming fire
Well, yeah, she has
effectively.
the teachings of past generations. So
Yeah,
that's pretty much all you need.
her robot arms, yeah. Even though her robot arms only go up to her elbow, they don't even include her elbow. So the most that they can do is, like, rotate the wrists really fast. I don't know. It would have been way cooler if she went like General Grievous mode and started, like, spinning her wrists around, But no, she just does normal fighting.
Also, I think it's kind of funny that their superheroes got each of them an area assigned to protect. So we have Nemesis protecting the women and children, but it's just herself. Because Millis is in the roof, and you don't get to see her until, like, the fight's pretty much over.
Yeah, she joins the battle, like, halfway through the battle.
General Titus and Tartar, what is it?
Tarek.
And Tarek are just, like, going to be fighting up front. Even though they're not up front, they're just waiting until Cora and Gunner go away for them to come and actually be on front. So they're just chilling for now.
Yeah, so, like, Den and a bunch of the villagers are the first round of fighters, and they all get, like, slaughtered because the rest of the town
dies. Like,
the rest of the town is just, like, waiting for something. I don't know what, but they're just waiting.
The bell just got ringed once, so what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Oh, it was meant to be 2 bells for our group. I don't know. I don't know why. Whatever reason it is, it's retarded and it makes no sense. So it's Nemesis and the Private, who we forget about because he's so insignificant. They're the ones protecting the women and children.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He's also there, but he's so useless.
Yeah, he is. He is. Like, this guy is an actual hero. He doesn't have much character, but he dies trying to protect his village.
He has, like, 3 lines in the last movie and, like, 2 in this one.
Yeah.
But he is a hero. He gives his life for the village.
Yeah.
He's the one that's providing food. He even flipping bangs Cora multiple times. Off screen, of course,
Off screen.
But, like, he's like a real man,
Yeah, he's like the Chad of this village.
Yes.
Yeah. And so he jumps onto this ship that's leaving to go back to the main ship because he wants to kill Admiral Noble.
It's so fun, though, that Admiral Noble is like, I'm gonna go all the way down to collect this grain because the Scargiver is there, and I myself am going to collect her. Oh, things exploded. Bye-bye. Woo.
Yeah, and so immediately he runs away.
Yeah, don't you feel so intimidated by him?
Yeah,
Oh
not at all. And, like, they get into this fist fight, and it's sad because, like, this guy, like, Den is, like, kind of a buff dude, and he gets beat by, like, okay, Admiral Noble also is fit, but he is not in the same weight class. It's like watching a heavyweight boxer fight medium weight, or a medium weight fight a lightweight. Like, no way this is happening. And
honestly, like, in my head, it's like in, like, Wolverine fighting, like, the guy from A Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, Admiral Noble pulls out a knife and is able to kill Den. And, yeah, so Admiral Noble kills Den, and we see his body fall to the ground.
It's so sad, because he's, like, the only one character I liked.
Yeah, here we go. And we get this comical thud. Yeah, like, it's so sad how they mistreated my boy Den.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one, like, true hero of Velt.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so these ships are leaving. They set up their ship. So this is the plan. I'm gonna tell you the plan. They get to their ship.
From the beginning, though.
Yeah.
The plan is collect grain and put it outside exposed so that they feel like, oh, I'm not going to attack it because grain and I'm hungry.
Yeah, we're hungry. We can't shoot the grain.
When they come closer to us because they can't shoot the grain, we're going to blast them.
Mm-hmm.
And then
they're going to run away, and we're going to sneak in with our ship. Our ship that I stole several cycles ago, and we're gonna fly in and sneak into their ship on the ship that I stole.
You, Mr. Smoothie, as pilot in training
Yeah.
that has actively flown airplanes, do you mind telling us a little bit about how, like, each airplane has a identification number and every
Yes.
airplane knows where it is?
Yes. So, this is just with aircraft and with our modern technology, not even talking about spacecraft with their hyper advanced technology. Each aircraft is meant to have a specific identification number or tail number that sets it apart from all other aircraft. That way, when you're talking on the radio or doing any activity, you can be precise about who you're talking to using these numbers, these identification numbers. And it's so precise to the point that when you're looking on your map, you can see which other planes are flying around you based on their tail number. But somehow, in this futuristic society, they didn't think to put identification numbers on their spacecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And they're able to fly this ship in with like a smoke grenade on it that makes it look like they have taken damage. And they're able to fly it in, call in on the radio, say, hey, we've taken damage. Can you fly us in? And they literally take over flying the plane for them and fly it in to this hangar so that they can sneak in. And it makes absolutely zero sense. Like, one, you'd think that they would know which of their aircraft actually went out and came back in. And two,
how many of them?
How many? And three, that this specific ship is the one that the Scargiver stole and ran away on after assassinating the king, queen, and princess.
Yeah, one would think that it's, like, marked, like, especially because, like, the dinosaur is, like, actively looking for her. At least there would have been, like, a sign saying, like, hey, wanted, reward, if you see this.
Yeah, information on this ship, X327.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, nothing. They just get brought in, and it's all fine. So then the bad guys start coming into the city, and General Titus and Tarek come out and fight. And neither of them ever get shot or hurt, but a bunch of the villagers do. And it's, like, sad, because, like, you know that they're going to survive because they're main characters, and all these villagers are okay to die, even though they're the ones that are, like, actually protecting their own village.
Okay, we don't have the dialogue anymore. But he, like, so Titus and his men are, like, fighting outside. And so Tartar gives this, like, motivational speech of, like, we don't die today. Like, let's live dying to your enemies. Let's go fight and don't leave them fighting alone. And it's like, wow, that was actually more motivational than flippin' stupid General Titus' speech.
Yeah. Yeah, like, this guy actually did a decent job, or
Well,
the
like,
writer did a decent job giving
Yeah.
him some lines that are actually kind of motivational.
And I feel like from now on, the rest of his lines are just like, ooh, watch out, moving on,
Yeah.
ooh, jumping, ooh.
This is his one meaningful line apart from his flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they blow up the field, which stops the flow of evil guys into the town for a while, and they're able to kill these enemies that are here. But then the bad guys, the Empire's tanks roll in. They're like walkers. Like, you can really tell that this was supposed to be a Star Wars movie, because, like, they have walkers, they have lightsabers, they have spaceships, like, all of these things probably were geared towards Star Wars, and they're like, okay, well, how do we make them legally distinct? So they use the uniforms from the group that was with the private, the group of rapists that came to the planet. They use their uniforms to sneak in and pose as, like, injured soldiers. And so the doctors are going to take them away and get them help. And that's how they sneak on board. So Nemesis gets stabbed, and the boy comes up and doesn't even save her, just is able to kill the guy, or distract him long enough for her to kill him.
He doesn't kill her, just, like, stabs it, and then I think it's either Nemesis or the private that comes and does the final kill.
Yeah, so he gets choked out, and then Nemesis takes the knife that the kid had and stabs the guy in the throat. And The women and children are safe, and Nemesis dies.
All of the times that we got to see the kid interacting with Nemesis finally paid off because he saved her life and she died. Still. So, it was...
It was all pointless.
Yes, it was kind of pointless, but hey, Nemesis is capable of making relationships, even though she never talked to the kid.
Yeah.
Funny, haha.
Yeah. I don't understand, like, the strategy of the Empire in their battle. Do they all have to go across the bridge? Is no one able to walk through the water or go around the edge of the village?
Well, we know that they made it to the longhouse.
Yeah. Why don't they send more people around the back from the longhouse?
Also, this scene, it's in slow motion. So, this, like, blasters, you just see them going through the screen very slowly. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's distracting. Because it's like, oh, look, a bunch of flying lights instead of, like, this intense fight that I'm watching right now.
Yeah. Like, I don't like the... Well, generally, I don't like the use that Zack Snyder does of the slow motion. It's too much and too slow, and it takes away from the pacing of the movie. Like, I feel like if you took away all of the slow motion from the entire movie, you would have saved 15 to 30 minutes.
And it is worth mentioning that there's so many slow motions that are completely unnecessary. Like, I know that you wanted to make the battle dramatic or whatever, but it's just like, they're so long and so slow that it's just like, it's not dramatic anymore. I'm just bored and I just want it to be done.
Mm-hmm. So now they're sneaking around the ship. They just killed a bunch of guys, and they're going to split up to do their tasks.
Yes.
But then she starts, like, stripping down her clothes as she's walking around because she doesn't want to be seen in the same clothes that she was in for some reason. She doesn't want to blend in more still. And there's a time here where, like, a guy or a bunch of guys walk by, and instead of, like, killing them, because she just killed a bunch of medics in the elevator, she just, like, hides, trying to act like she's fitting in still. And they apparently don't notice her. And it's like, okay, so are you killing guys and are people looking for you? Or are you not killing guys and they're not looking for you?
Also, something that you mentioned when we watched this the first time, they get out of the elevator, they have this conversation, and then she's like, go that way. There should be an elevator that way.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's like, isn't he supposed to go back to the hangar?
Yeah.
So if he takes the same elevator and goes to the same floor that he came from, would go to the place that he is looking, you just send him on the opposite direction for another random elevator that may or may not be there.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Okay.
Like, they literally just kill a bunch of guys in the elevator, and instead of, I don't know, like, you can move the bodies out of the elevator and send him back down that elevator. He probably doesn't want to go down the elevator with the bodies in it. That would be a little too obvious. But that elevator goes directly to the hangar. Mm-hmm. And instead she says, like, go that way, there should be an elevator, get the ship ready, which, like, oh my goodness, like, why is it the way that it is? And so she goes off to complete her quest, and he is left to find the right elevator.
Which is not the one that he just came from.
Yeah, not that one, though. Don't use that one. And, like, he stays dressed up in his uniform and is able to, like, sneak around successfully, but she has to strip down to, like, her tank top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, we get Milius participating in the battle, even though, you know, the battle has been going on for, like, probably 20 minutes or longer in the actual universe. Mm-hmm. Probably 20 minutes or longer in the actual movie, too, because of all the slow-mo. And just barely they start participating in the battle, her and her group of men. Yeah, this is the part right here where, like, a bunch of men walk by, and she's just like, yep, just maintaining this wall here, nothing to see here. And they just walk by.
Yeah. Because at this point, I guess no one has reported there's a bunch of dead bodies in the elevator that's free to be used.
Yeah. And we see her stripping down to her tank top for some reason, even though having a disguise on a ship like this would be very useful.
Also, this completely random design on the ship is just like gets energy from the top of her hair and like throws up lava, and it's just kind of weird how it works out. But it's like from here you can see pretty well how that head's designed. So if someone wants to put a bunch of green, flashy green lights, grenades, you would see it from all the way where Cora is right now. Yeah. However, when the officers that are looking at this area are seeing it, they don't notice the grenades until they're literally a second about to explode. Which is kind of stupid, considering how this is designed and portrayed. Yeah. But anyway.
Like, all the lights here are red and blue. You would notice a bunch of flashing green lights on the nose of your engine. On the forehead's
guy?
Yeah, it's like on the nose of this engine, which is shaped like a human head.
Or maybe like a goat?
Yeah, it might be like a goat. It's shaped like that for no reason, but apparently it's shaped like that. Also, like, we get this weird scene where she's, like, shooting out of the top of this building and starts to get shot at, and so she jumps out into the water, and I don't think that we ever actually, like, see her do much after this. We maybe get a couple other scenes where she's fighting.
Well, yeah, she's like, I didn't think, no, we might actually lose our lives, but we're gonna do it together.
She and Tarek have a conversation that, like, is meaningless, and then the robot comes and saves everyone. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, but that's all she did in the battle.
Yeah, so look at this. It's like a face. It's like a weird sphinx head, and she puts a bunch of explosives right on the nose. That's a little on the nose, huh? Oh, and then this guy, if someone finally, like, finds her doing stuff out of the ordinary, and so she shoots him, and instead of, like, if she were dressed in a uniform, she probably could have gotten close enough to, like, kill him silently. But instead, because she's not dressed in a uniform, she has to shoot him, and he falls down into the coal pits, which apparently this giant spaceship runs on coal power. What? They have to actually, like, shovel fuel.
It's men shoveling, not robots or machinery. In the future.
Yeah. Men are physically shoveling fuel into engines, into, like, generators on the ship to keep it flying in the air, hovering.
You know what's the most interesting thing? All these men that work all day to move the ship, they just run on bread.
Yeah, they just eat grain. That's the only thing that they eat is grain. And the ship's about to be out of grain, so that's why they need all this grain. Mm-hmm. Oh, and now they're finding out that someone has snuck on board. And Admiral Noble is like, Arthaleus is here. I have to go and kill her. And so he leaves his post and leaves some other guy to be the commander of the ship while he goes to have a fist fight with Cora.
Well, but not before telling the guys, like, oh, okay, so if, like, she's here, then we can just leave this forsaken moon behind. You can just shoot all of them and let's go. And he's like, well, but we have men down there and the grain that is going to be feeding our people. And he's like, I don't freaking care. Just do it. And he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and, like, he gives the reason that, like, oh, if we leave now and all of those men down there die, we don't need the grain anymore. So we might as well just kill them all and blow up the grain with it. Less mouths to feed.
The guy is, like, at first like, oh, how ruthless. But it's like, okay, I'll do it. And then we don't never see him again.
Yeah, like that's the end of the story. That's the end of this character. Yeah, like it would be really interesting if he realized, like, oh, are we the bad guys? Like, like the meme, are we the baddies? Mm-hmm. And becomes a good guy and, like, decides, no, I'm not gonna put up with this crap. I'm gonna be a good guy. But no, he's just like, oh, but all the men. I guess it's fine. Fire away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like, no one in the entire, like, chain has that thought. Commander Noble gives the order to these guys. They give the order to the guys running the gun. Mm-hmm. And the guys running the gun are just like, yep, prep the gun. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jimmy is back. He uses his skills to save everyone. And doesn't say anything to anyone. No one says anything to him. And it's just like, okay, why are you here now? Why are you here now? Why couldn't you have been here earlier? You could have saved Den. You could have saved all of these other guys. You could have killed Admiral Noble and shot, like, destroyed all 4 of these ships that were there.
Honestly, if they just got him like a sniper rifle type of thing, and he got
Yeah.
in the mountain that he was when he saw all of them
Yeah.
arrive, he could have been literally. Who could have like, you know how that scene in Iron Man where like the bad guys are holding hostages and he's like pointing to like all these 5 people, shoots them, and then they're done. It's like he has like perfect aim.
Mhm.
The robot does, so he could
Yeah.
just be like, okay, targeting Ember Noble, another 20 before like I run out of time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit Ember Noble, hit the 20, and hit the bell. So then they blow up after.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so like you just
Mhm.
made the job like 10 times easier. And then by the time the like dust and the smoke is fading away, you're already down, ready for more, you know?
Yeah.
So like if he would have just started the battle, and I feel like at this point I was like okay with him not being around because it's like you can't win. It's like okay, so he's hopeless, he's not gonna help. But then he just helps.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah. And like he's a smart enough robot. He probably could have been like, "Oh, you know what you should do instead with the ship that you have? If you fly it to this certain point, or you know what? I'm a robot. I'm going to program the ship to fly to a certain point on this ship, and cause it to explode, and destroy the ship." He doesn't do anything for the first 2/3 of the fight, and then he jumps in to save everyone. Everyone that's alive at that point. But
Captain Marvel style.
Nemesis dies, Den dies, a bunch of the villagers die, all because he didn't decide to step in earlier. And we have this dramatic scene where our hero characters are all reacting to the battle that's happening, but like we don't care about any of them. They have done any of the work that they've done to establish them as likable, meaningful characters has not worked, and we don't have any interest or
Connection?
we don't have any connection with them or any desire to see them actually succeed, other than they're the good guys.
Yeah, like were you sad when Nemesis died?
No.
I'm like, nice, less of that stupid hat.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see him here in front of all of these guys. Like, Jimmy should be acting like Rocket Raccoon here with like 2 guns or more and having showing perfect aim. They should have this wide shot where he's just like very robotically and precisely moving his arms with these blasters, firing at just the right time, at just the right angle to hit like multiple people, killing them and disabling tanks. But what we get instead is just like him using his gun as a club to beat these guys and getting shot, but still surviving and saving the day.
And thriving.
Yeah. So these men come to get Cora, and they apparently know what elevator she's on, and they stop it at their floor. And the door opens up, and there's no one there. And so like, what? And they start like moving in closer. And they do the stupid trope of like the person is hiding up in the top of the elevator and she jumps down and kills them all. But like, they knew she was there. They should not have been surprised by this. It was really dumb. Yeah, here's all the stupid guys and the flashing green lights right behind them.
Yeah, we can see the flashlights from here, but no one else does.
And of course, right before they're going to fire the massive gun at the village, it blows up and saves the day. And the ship is
It's actually kind of hilarious. I feel like they literally repeat the same clip of the weapon pointed to the village. Just like, it's taking time. But it's like, no, it's not taking time. You're just like making it longer so that like it's more intense, but it's not. We know that it's not going to be destroyed. Like, all of the characters are still there, so.
Yep. And she meets Admiral Noble out there. And who does Gunner shoot? The guy next to Admiral Noble, not Admiral Noble.
And what Admiral Noble does, shoots Gunner.
Yeah. And so they start having this stupid battle in the ship as it's sliding. Like, I feel like this is trying to copy episode 3 of Star Wars,
which they already did on the last movie.
Yeah.
Copying Mustafar.
Yeah, they kind of copied Mustafar. This is also copying Mustafar, where they're supposed to have this epic lightsaber battle.
With 2 blue lightsabers.
Yeah, but the stakes are so low and like lame in this, and the ship is crashing just like on the battle above Coruscant. Okay, so the whole time they're falling down this hangar, Gunner is in in a ship that's also falling down, and at some point they're like stopped halfway up. Like she's grabbing onto this pole. They're standing on some boxes that are like tied to the ground or whatever. Just barely, he is passing her when things have been falling past her for a while, and she was about at the same like level as he was when the ship started sliding.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't grab onto anything. We don't see him grab onto anything. We only see him slide past and yell her name right here.
It's kind of fun. It's extremely memeable because it's just like she's like struggling to hold onto this post, and then you see her just like ah.
Yeah, like it's like something that you'd expect from like Penguins of Madagascar or something stupid like that. Or like you probably won't remember this very well, but in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, when when Lancelot is running up to the castle, it's that kind of a meme where just this guy like slides past randomly. And so they fight, and it looks like she's gonna lose, but Gunner is able to rescue her with his last breath, basically.
And so he still dies, but oh my goodness, like see his face right now. I don't know who the heck the makeup artist was, but like you made him look old, dude.
Yeah, like he looks frail in this scene. Like yes, he's dying, but
He looks like a different character.
yeah,
though.
he's the same guy that he was like 3 hours ago before the fighting started.
Mm-hmm.
But he looks like he's a pale, skinny
His
guy.
face changed the moment he started dating Cora. That's how much stress he's been going through.
Yeah. And then for some reason the Blood X's show up to like clean up the stragglers.
Yeah. So I was saying like, you know, like Millie's, she like had a very deep relationship with the brother Blood X for some reason. Like she flipping cried out loud when he died. However, at the end of the movie, she doesn't feel the need to, one, go inform his sister about his death, two, at least send a message about what's going on, or three, take care of proper, like, body remains, funerary services, or anything that involves, like, the death of someone that you care about.
Yeah.
However, despite not giving importance to any of that, the rebels and the Blood Axes are still like, oh yeah, have fun, I'm here.
Yeah, they know to show up for some reason, and they show up just in time to fight all of the escaping fighters out of the hangar of the destroyed ship. And they show all the villagers that died. Now we get the funerary services for the people that actually matter, because apparently Darien Bloodaxe didn't matter enough to get a funeral.
Dan, who lived there for years and provided elk and food, didn't get a special funerary service.
Yeah, we don't see anything indicating that he gets special treatment.
Flippin' Nemesis, who died saving all of the women and children, also doesn't get a special service.
I think this is her flag with like the storm or whatever, but they don't mention her.
The only one that
again.
they mention is Gunner.
Yeah, the only one that gets mentioned is Gunner, and we see his flag as well. And now like this is something meaningful. Like it's trying to be meaningful. She finally confesses to everyone, "I'm the assassin of Princess
Why?
Issa."
There's no reason.
Yeah, like
she has a heart broken. Like when you get dumped, do you just go like and explain all of your sins to like the rest of the people that barely know you?
Yeah.
No.
Mhm.
Like she is presumed as the most close person that never shares anything about her life. However, she literally has 2 seconds of opportunity to express anything about her, and she'll cry it out loud. Just like, in the academy, they told me not to have a lover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so now she's letting everyone know that she is the assassin of Princess Issa, and it's like she's trying to say like, if only I had told you this before, we would have trusted each other enough, and we would have won without as many deaths as we had.
Yeah, like there's no reason for her to come up with this confession right now.
Yeah, like this makes no sense for you to be sharing at this point.
And it's so funny because you get to this point and it's like, what?
Where is this coming from?
Yeah, where is this coming from? And then this stupid genius General Titus is like, actually she's not dead, haha.
Yeah, she's
LOL.
not dead. She's more than death. Like, it makes no sense. So one, she's the one that apparently killed her, if anyone's going to know of them, it would be her. When was the time that he became a traitor? Was it after she killed the king and queen? Or
And why would he have that information?
yeah, why would he know? And why did he wait until now to tell everyone?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's kind of pertinent information.
Yeah, we should have known that from the first movie.
Maybe he should have told that as his secret that he was keeping from everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was like, Corey, you have anything to say? And people would be like, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, actually I know that the princess is still alive. And then Cora's like, oh, well now I don't need to
Like,
say
they
it's
literally...
shiz.
They literally just brought this up last minute because they were like, if we do good, then we have enough excuse to have a part 3. And it's like, no, please shut up. Stop making these movies.
Yeah, please stop subjecting us to this torture. And so now they have a reason to make a third movie. Please, please, by all that is holy, I hope we don't get it. As much as I enjoy criticizing it, I would rather it not.
And this is like technically our second time watching it, so we're telling Netflix that the algorithm is good or whatever.
Well, but hopefully by us sharing our views on it, we can stop more people from seeing it than us watching it. Though we're a small enough channel, maybe not. Yeah. And
also, the robot, the moment he finds out that she is the killer of Princess Issa, she's like, okay, cool, I'll still help you.
Yeah, I'll still help. Also, like, Princess Issa's not dead, so it's all cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't even care. It's so weird. Like, he should have some reaction.
Like, explosion on head, just like, what? You said she's alive?
Yeah, like, they could have at least had, like...
reason now.
They could have at least had, like, all of his different eye lights, like, flicker and change colors as he's, like, processing this.
Mm-hmm.
To give us some indication that he's, like, having a tough time realizing what is actually happening. And we get to the end of the movie. Ugh, finally. So, going through it again this way, I do think that this is as bad as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that they are equally bad, but at least this one has a little bit more explosions. Like, that's the
why,
one saving grace that
I guess that's why for me, like, the first one is just, like, a little bit more okay, because I don't need explosions to enjoy the movie, or whatever. And so the first one had, like, a couple of things that are like, okay, I don't hate this. And I feel like this one just had so much exposition and montages, like, oh, the redundancy, and the many things that we need to see over and over and over again. And then it's just, sometimes it's just on the borderline stupid, like...
Yeah.
Issa has been alive all along.
Like, the first movie has, like, the skeleton of a good story, or part of a skeleton of a good story, that it's, like, trying to set up and piece together, that they're going to flesh out later. But by the end of that movie, you know that it's not going anywhere, and you just have this mangled mass of, like, bones and meat. And then this is just like, hey, let's, like, throw it into a meat grinder. Let's throw it into a wood chipper.
Yeah, that's why it's sad, because it's like, it had the potential to become something, but then you just mess it up and keep messing it up, and it's just like, I don't want to see this ever again.
So, this has been our review of Rebel Moon.
Very thorough review.
Yeah, very thorough review of Rebel Moon Part 2, Scargiver. It's bad. Consistently inconsistent, and there are no meaningful characters or relationships that it deals with. I think, like,
honestly, if you're, like, craving for sci-fi that it's not Star Wars, just go watch Dune.
Yeah, go watch Dune.
You're gonna have a little bit more of an enjoyable time than
Yeah.
this, and it doesn't have half as much slow-mos, and it looks better.
Yeah, go watch Dune. Watch, like, the old Alien movies. Watch the first 6 Star Wars. Like, that's more fun. I haven't watched enough of Star Trek to say, but I've heard that it's good. Also, Stargate, I've heard is good.
I also got, like, a sudden urge to watch Firefly, too. You know?
Yeah, go watch Firefly and Serenity. Like, those are pretty good. Man, like, there's actually characters that you care about in those, you know?
That are interesting, too. Like, that is the proof. Like, Serenity is the proof that you can have a bunch of weirdos, random characters from completely different cultures, and it works out.
Yep.
Anyway.
Thank you all for watching, And look forward to more reviews and
If you have
videos
any
in the
like
future.
suggestions, the movies that you would like to hear our opinions on, just leave them down in the comments. We read all the comments. So
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Bye.